The Utah Jazz for some time have been gauging the interest of other teams and some of their veteran players as they're looking to go just a little bit younger and continue their rebuild in a way that allows them to make sure they end up with the highest opportunity odds to get a high draft pick instead of ending up anywhere from, the 7 to 14 mark of the lottery. Because that just wouldn't push them far enough forward, and there aren't enough players in any draft class to guarantee you make a hit at that spot. And the odds are just quite simply higher the higher you are in the draft. With that being said, Jordan Clarkson has been the mainstay focus of it. Obviously, John Collins has been another person, but he has been having a stellar season and has gotten the phone to ring and ring and ring repetitively. However, Jordan Clarkson has finally fielded some interest from some teams, and whether it be because of the way he's playing so far in December, 5 games in, or just because they are that desperate, we're about to find out. With that being said, if you're new to the channel, it's your boy Ray Hoops. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this one. The Clippers, Knicks, Lakers, and Nuggets are among the teams that have actually reached out to the Utah Jazz in the desirable trade market to gauge the interest of what exactly is being expected in a package that would end up having him. Evan Siddery had this report to say, as well as saying that the Jazz were seeking a promising prospect that is young and draft capital in exchange for Jordan Clarkson, which makes sense. I honestly thought they were going to go for an expiring contract that would end up turning to effectively dust after this season, but a young promising player would also be very interesting. I think that the Knicks have some interesting pieces. Obviously, all of these teams have something that is worthwhile in a certain sense. The Knicks probably have the least amount of draft compensation out of the three because of their most recent Mikal Bridges deal, but nevertheless, I think that all these teams have something to say about it. The Lakers obviously faltering, and while they have had some really impressive play from some guys in different stints, overall they haven't been able to piece it together well enough, especially from a bench standpoint with consistency, to end up putting together enough of a scoring punch to allow this team to win games. The Clippers have been surprisingly well off, and while they have been really top heavy and really reliant on the Zubac and Harden duo, they still could use a little bit more of a bench punch, and they do have Chris Dunn, who was last on the Jazz, over there already, so there would be a little bit of a welcoming party, if you get what I'm saying. The Nuggets are another interesting team because, yes, they are extremely Nikola Jokic dominant, and while Russell Westbrook has filled in for Jamal Murray in stints where he was out of games, they still overall just need more talent, especially from the bench, considering how they most recently lost KCP. And while it's been a slow and steady decline of role players, even though you have the likes of Christian Brown who have stepped up, they just don't have enough of a punch to get the job done and be heavily favored in contention standards. Also, the Knicks, while they have made some really blockbuster moves, still need a more effective person off the bench to lead their scoring punch. And obviously, they don't have Mitchell back in their lineup until probably January time. And Jordan Clarkson really fits that bill. We're talking about a guy who, yes, he is 32 years old, so he's on the back half of his prime and the back half of his career. But at 6'3", about 195, 200 pounds. He has the size to play a really effective two-guard spot. He's not known to be a great defender. We all understand this, but the scoring punch that he has provided, as well as being the sixth man of the year in the 2021 season, he's one of those guys where you can count on him to buy you a bucket. Now, the past 2 years, he hasn't really had the greatest scoring stints, and I will be the first person to sit there and call it out because I'm a numbers merchant. I'm an efficiency merchant. I love that sort of stuff. However, this season, he has been having a little bit of a better time, and more specifically this December. Now, the numbers look like this because you guys know I'm going to get into those. 15.8 points, 3.4 rebounds, 4.1 assists, to go along with about a steal and a little bit over 0.1 blocks a game. He's playing only 26 minutes a night, and overall he's shooting 41% from the field and 33% from the three-point line, to go along with 80% from the free throw line. Now, this puts his true shooting percentage at 52.3%, which is still one of the lower marks of his career, but it's not necessarily the most egregious thing on the planet. Now, when I said he's doing better this December more over than anything, it's because his percentages are definitely up from all those marks. To the tune of him playing 26.5 minutes per game, averaging 17.8 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 1.2 steals, 0.6 blocks, and shooting 45.9% from the field and 52% from three-point range on 5 attempts. Now, mind you, this is a very small sample size. It's only 5 games out of the 18 that he's played so far this season, and he has had a couple of injury bugs. Other players have been injured. There's been a lot of rotation and switching up of lineups, so you could attribute that to some of his early failure and just inability to see great success at the beginning of the season, even though it was supposed to be a resurgent year for him. However, I think that with everybody being healthy, everybody cohesively gelling, and for the first time ever, them enjoying some success as a basketball team, particularly this month, even though, yes, they are a tanking team, you don't want to sit there and get absolutely clapped and blown out every single game. And that has been more or less consistently the truth of the matter and just the fact of what everybody sees on a night in, night out basis. But over the past 5 games, they've had some more close games. They've managed to win 2 of them. And out of their past 10, they've actually won 4 out of them. And while we don't want them to win too many because we do expect them to be, a tanking roster, and you want them to have the best odds at getting a high prospect in the draft and, just rolling the dice and seeing where you can go from there, having guys that can help you play competitive basketball and lead some of those young guys towards actually winning games and towards just playing the right style of basketball in Will Hardy's system is the way to go about doing so. And while Jordan Clarkson hasn't been the best, more recently, he has been pretty solid. In October, he only had 1 game over 20. In November, he had 2 games over 20. And in December, thus far, he's already had 3 games over 20. And that could be a trend that I expect to continue on. And obviously, he's back, he's healthy, he seems to be playing his best brand of basketball. In 4 out of these 5 games, he's ended up attempting over 10 field goal attempts. And in the one that he ended up attempting less, he only attempted 6, and he shot 1 of 6 in that game. So it was a thing of him playing, number 1, 14 minutes, and number 2, him being put in a situation where he's not allowed to do too much damage to the team when he recognizes his shot isn't falling. And that's perfectly fine because in that game, he still managed to have 5 assists, so he wasn't completely negligent with the ball in his hands. I would like to say that overall, when it comes to handling the rock, he's not the greatest when it comes to his turnovers, but it isn't nearly as bad as it was last year because that was just some of the worst basketball I've ever seen. And more so from his standpoint, those were the worst numbers he put up from a field goal percentage and turnover category standpoint across his entire career. Now, mind you, he is a 6-man of the year person that's perennially in those conversations. And while last year didn't really bode well for him, I think that on a new team and on a team that is a contender with more star power and more guys that will take the eyes off of him and expectations of winning basketball games, he will have the opportunity to go crazy off the bench, alleviate some of the stress from other stars, and really show the player that he always has been known to be. And obviously, he's been on playoff teams before, whether it be the Cavaliers or more recently, obviously, the Utah Jazz before they ended up vaulting everything and sending away Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I think that he has the ability and the capability to really get things done and show other teams that he's still a viable option and that his career isn't over yet and he's not in those twilight years. And he probably won't be for another 2 or 3 seasons, hopefully. With that being said, though, again, it's still early on in the year, and it's just nice to see that some teams are either desiring him enough because they see enough promise or desperate enough to gamble and take the opportunity to just field a call and talk to Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck and see, number 1, what it's going to take to get them to move off of Jordan Clarkson, and number 2, if it's a viable option for him to be sent elsewhere. Because obviously we do want the young guys. We want guys like your Bryce Sensabaughs who share similar roles to have the opportunity to play more, to get some more minutes. And if you're expecting a team to be bad anyways, you don't want too many guys to play too well because then it could end up hurting your odds and put you in the leveling mediocrity tube that will see you getting no high draft pick and also see you not being a playoff team, and that's really just another wasted year in purgatory. We want the Utah Jazz to go ahead and tank it out and just be as bad as they can be so far this year and continue on those roles while still being a semi-competitive team in those games. You don't want to be losing by 25, 30 points. Losing by 7 to 11 to 14 sometimes is pretty reasonable for me because I think that you can still have quality games. You can run quality plays, and your rookies and your second year and your third year players can play quality minutes and have the opportunity to get better at their individual games, despite still trying to achieve that goal of being a team that's at the bottom of the league this year in the attempt to be at the top in 2, 3, 4 years down the road. With that being said, though, it's your boy Ray Hoops. Let me know what you think about the teams that are interested in Jordan Clarkson. Let me know if you think that he deserves to be traded. Let me know if you think you want him to be traded to begin with, or if you think that you would rather him just stay as a mentee kind of player and enjoy his twilight years with the Utah Jazz roster. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're in the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.